Hey everyone, how you doing? Liam from Push Square here, and unfortunately I have to once again be the bearer of disappointing news as Sony have delayed God of War Ragnarok into 2022. This was announced alongside a couple of other bits of information, including the fact that God of War and Gran Turismo 7 will also launch on PlayStation 4, Sony Bend are working on a brand new IP, Horizon Forbidden West is expected to launch this year, but Sony are not committing to that just yet, and Astrobot developer Team Asobi is expanding. This was all revealed, as is so often the case these days, via a PlayStation blog post. The site published a Q&A with the head of PlayStation Studios, Herman Hulst. The interview was, in general, fairly sedate. Herman expressed the importance of single-player narrative games as being essential to the PlayStation system and brand, as well as saying how the company sees second-party partnerships as being an essential part of PlayStation Studios, as much as any work created by their first-party studios such as Naughty Dog and Insomniac. It is a very interesting read, I would encourage you check it out. However, it also revealed a couple of important pieces of news that have a pretty big impact on Sony's release schedule for the remainder of 2021. So for starters, the biggest news is that God of War Ragnarok has been delayed into 2022. Developer Santa Monica Studio said via Twitter, quote, "Since the release of the next God of War teaser last year, we've been humbled by the amount of love our community has shown us. We're incredibly grateful to see so many people excited to experience the next chapter of Kratos and Atreus' journey. We remain focused on delivering a top quality game while maintaining the safety and well-being of our team, creative partners and families. With this in mind, we've made the decision to shift our release window to 2022. Thank you for all your continued support. We've got some exciting things in the works that we can't wait to show you." Straight off the bat, it's great the team are prioritising the health and safety of their staff, especially after the madness of the past year and a half. The game was tentatively scheduled to launch for PlayStation 5 in 2021, but Sony's silence has made it pretty clear the release window was going to slip into next year. Now that is a shame, it would have been a big launch for the company in the second half of 2021. It would have probably released in the Christmas period of this year, but it does make sense that they have delayed the project. It's been a very tough year for the entire development community. There have been lots of big projects that have slipped into next year and beyond. This is to be expected, and it's better for them to take their time to deliver the successor to God of War that I'm sure we're all excited to play. Alongside this news, Hulst revealed that God of War and Gran Turismo 7 will also launch for the PlayStation 4. He said, quote, "Where it makes sense to develop a title for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, for Horizon Forbidden West, the next God of War, GT7, we'll continue looking at that. And if PlayStation 4 owners want to play that game, then they can. If they want to go and play the PlayStation 5 version, the game will be there for them." Now this has become a bit of a point of contention because this is a very different stance to the one PlayStation boss Jim Ryan made last year, where he claimed, "We believe in generations," a quote that will haunt this poor man for the rest of his career, I can only assume. Now it made sense at the time as to why Ryan said this. It was to differentiate Sony from Microsoft, whose approach this generation has become almost platform agnostic. It put Sony in the position where they were fully committed to making experiences that could only be played on the PlayStation 5. Games that utilised all of the features of the next generation console to great success. However, less than a year after that quote was made, most titles announced alongside the PlayStation 5 have now been revealed or even released for the PlayStation 4. Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War, and Gran Turismo 7. Now people are understandably confused about Sony's stance. However, I do have to say it does make more sense for Sony to have this position. As Hulst himself said in that post, quote, "You can't build a community of over 110 million PlayStation 4 owners and then just walk away from it, right? I think that'd be bad news for fans of PlayStation 4 and frankly not very good for business. Sony is a company, Hulst is a businessman. This makes a lot more sense than the comments that Ryan made in 2020. It does make zero sense to fully walk away from an audience that big. Also, it's important to remember, although uptake for the PlayStation 5 has been really good, supply cannot match the overwhelming demand for the console. Therefore, not only would Sony be leaving an entire generation of players behind, those players want to physically play these new games, but they wouldn't be able to because they can't buy a PlayStation 5. Now, it's not like the PlayStation 5 isn't being supported with exclusive games such as Returnal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and the Demon's Souls remake, but it still makes sense why it's important for them to release these cross-gen games. Also, these cross-gen games do still look phenomenal on PlayStation 5. You only need to look at Miles Morales or the recently released Horizon Forbidden West gameplay trailer to see just how phenomenal these games look on the PlayStation 5. Slightly related to the last point, Hulst was cautious not to commit to stating that Horizon is releasing in 2021. He said, quote, "For Horizon, we think we are on track to release this holiday season, but that isn't quite certain yet, and we're working as hard as we can to confirm that to you as soon as we can." This makes sense. Sony have made mistakes in the past with announcing games way too early, such as Spider-Man and Ghost of Tsushima, and they had a lot of issues with getting Last of Us Part 2 out the door. The date for that game kept slipping throughout 2019 and early 2020. It would make sense that the company are still committed to getting the game out in 2021, they just don't want to reveal a date for fear that it may slip further. It does seem likely that we'll see it this year, but actually I think it's quite refreshing with how honest Hulst was about how difficult it must be to ship a game at any point in time, never mind at the moment. Hopefully we'll get something more concrete before that game's release window, which will presumably be between September to December of this year. Also, there's a lot of news today. Sony Bend is working on a brand new IP. Again, in that same interview, Hulst stated, quote, "And you know Bend Studio is working on a very exciting new IP that they're very, very passionate about. They're building on the deep open world systems that they developed with Days Gone, so I'm really happy for Bend Studio." So it's safe to say the team are working on an open world single player narrative game, but not the sequel to Days Gone many were hoping for. A report by Bloomberg earlier in the year claimed that the company had pitched a sequel to Sony, but the company had rejected it. Whatever it is, it's safe to say that it may be a long way off considering the nature of this announcement. And finally, sort of finally, Team Asobi is expanding. They're working on a new project, but it seems like Sony have invested big in the team, following both the success of Astrobot Rescue Mission and Astro's Playroom, alongside them closing Japan studio. Team Asobi themselves, speaking via the PlayStation blog, said, quote, "While we are growing and challenging bigger things, our mission at heart remains the same as ever. Bring you PlayStation magic, innovation, and put smiles on your faces with fun, colourful games for all ages." We can only assume they're working on something Astro related. However, Hulst said they're simply, quote, "developing a franchise for all ages with global appeal." I don't care what that team are working on, I can't wait to see what they have cooking. Team Asobi is such a fantastic, talented team. I adored Astro's Playroom. I'd love for them to expand that concept out into a longer game, but whatever they're working on, hopefully we'll see it soon, and I have no doubt in my mind it'll be a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I guess finally, although we did already know this, Hulst did reaffirm that the company have 25 projects currently in development. Quote, "Well, we have a lot going on right now. PlayStation Studios have more than 25 titles in development. Almost half of these are new IP. The other half, they're titles that are set in franchises that PlayStation fans already know and love. So it's quite a lot." That's very, very interesting. We only know a handful of what those games are. So I think it's going to be a very exciting 12 months when the company start to finally unveil what all these teams are working on. And obviously, based on what I mentioned earlier, PlayStation Studios does not just mean first-party studios, it means any second-party developers that are working with the company, and also any other developers they've made deals with or connections with. I believe Hulst even mentioned that Kojima Studios was considered a PlayStation studio when they were developing Death Stranding, so there could be a lot of very exciting games in the works that we'll get to see hopefully soon. Will Sony do an E3 show? I could do a whole video talking about that. We don't know yet. It does feel like they've kind of shown everything they want to show this month with the Horizon State of Play, and this blog post seems quite carefully timed, coming out a week before E3, kind of telling everyone what they're working on and what they're not releasing this year. So I'd be surprised if Sony do something official in June, but then what do I know? I'm not there. I'm not in the boardroom of Sony. I'm just a man on the internet talking about video games. So I would love to be proven wrong and that Sony do something this month, but I do not have my hopes up. Make of that what you will. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. That seemed like a lot, actually. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. Subscribe to Push Square for everything PlayStation. If you want your news, if you want your previews, if you want lots of dumb things in between, click that subscribe button. Leave a comment telling me what you think about all of this news, if you're disappointed about God of War slipping, and I will be back soon. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.